So up next now is our tip of the week, how to get everything you ever wanted as a travel nurse. You know what it is, Paul? You want to know my secret?
It's references.
It is references, and it's overlooked all the time. Nobody takes it seriously. But if you get references, guys, it can make all the difference in the world. So, Paul, what do you tell people about referencing?
The more the merrier.
Yeah.
I mean, most hospitals, well, every agency is going to have a different reference requirement, but at the end of the day, it's up to what is put in your file and sending over to the hiring manager at the travel or at the hospital that you're going to be going for a travel assignment. So some agencies may require, only take or be okay with taking charge nurse references or one nurse manager, one charge. But if I was a nurse and I was getting into travel nursing, or if I'm a current travel nurse and I am continuing to travel, I would get a nurse manager every time.
Absolutely.
Every time.
It's one thing, it's a tip that I give out. It's a tall order. Every assignment you do, I would say try to get 5 references. Try to get a DON. Try to get a unit manager, and then get 3 charge nurses.
Yep.
DONs are going to be tough as travelers. A lot of times they don't even know the travelers. We hear it all the time. Managers, you'll probably meet with them once. When you're about halfway through, get a reference form from your agency, take it to them and say, hey, would you mind filling this out for me?
You'd be surprised.
And they'll do it for you, because sometimes there are hospitals that won't give an agency a reference, but everyone wants one.
Or if you're an OR nurse or a scrub tech, surgeons are great too. They see you in the OR scrubbed in. They can see your skills and they can attest to that. Those go a long way as well.
Even if it's a written letter of reference, oftentimes that will suffice.
Yep. And so you may say, well, my hospital isn't allowed to give references. What then? What do I do? How do we overcome that? And you'd be surprised on a charge nurse or a nurse manager, off to the side, how often if they will do it for you if you're a good employee and they like you. But
and again, it's being adaptable to how they do it, and don't be afraid to ask. The worst they're going to say is no.
Yeah.
The other concern I get all the time, Paul, especially with first time travelers, is I don't want to tell my manager that I'm leaving.
Yeah.
What do you do, or how do you coach nurses, or explain to them what's your way around that concern? How do you alleviate that for people?
Well, you're going to need to have a reference either way. So just rip the Band-Aid off. And I mean, timing is something that you have to take in consideration. I mean, you can't apply to a travel position without having references. Mm-hmm. But in my experience, nurse managers want to know farther in advance than possible. So Honestly. They can prepare to bring in someone, whether if it was a perm staff or another traveler, into their unit so they can help, with the schedule. You'd be surprised. I used to be in a management position myself, and when someone told me that they were leaving, I was happy that they told me up front.
Yeah, and that's the thing I always tell travelers too, is if you do come to that and you're like, hey, I don't want them to leave yet, you can wait, but if they hear it through the grapevine, through the rumor mill of hospitals, that 9 times out of 10 is going to be worse. Whereas if you're just straight with them, you're honest, and you go to them and say, hey, this is something I'm considering. I haven't committed to anything yet, but one of the requirements is referencing. Would you mind filling this out for me? If I do decide to take an assignment, I am going to give you ample time. I'm going to give you, 4 weeks notice. That way you can find someone. I'll help train them, and that honesty carries so much more weight than them getting blindsided by, hey, I signed a contract, I leave in 2 weeks. Can you fill out this reference for me?
Yeah, and honestly, you can plan this out with your manager. I mean, maybe you talk about traveling like it's always something I've wanted to do, and bring that up to them, well in advance before you even start talking to an agency.
Exactly.
Maybe they have that. It's like, oh yeah, you're right. You've always wanted to travel, and I'm so happy for you. And here you go. You're gonna do great. You can always come back. If it doesn't work out, that's what it's all about.
And if you play your cards right too, I have nurses that are contingent at one facility. They're able to do a 13-week assignment, a 6-month assignment, and maybe we're having trouble finding them that next assignment. They can go back and pick up PRN shifts or go pick up shifts for 2 weeks, 2 months.
It's a good fallback plan.
It's such a good fallback plan. I know it takes pressure off me as their recruiter, and I know it takes pressure off them, because then it's not hey, at the end of 13 weeks, am I going to have a job lined up? So being proactive, guys, like I said, it is how to get anything you want. If you get those 5 references too from every assignment, and you decide, after a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, that traveling's no longer for you, and you've gotten 5 references, 3 references from every facility, you're going to have a stack of them. And you're going to be able to get
Any job you
damn
want.
near any job you want.
Yeah.
Just because you say, hey, here's my manager's
Here you go.
references and the DONs and the OR directors from the last 5 years of my traveling.
Yep.
And it carries so much more weight than people give it.
Yep. Imagine a hiring a nurse manager looking for a traveler. She has one application with 2 charge nurses and one with a nurse manager, a charge nurse, a night charge nurse, another charge nurse, maybe an assistant nurse manager,
Yeah.
and a doctor.
Yeah. Doctor and
Who are they going to pick?
DONs, managers. I always would say that the more references you have, the better. But now I kind of go with the higher the title, the better. If you get 3 supervisors and a charge nurse, I would say that's probably better than 3 charge nurses and 1 supervisor.
Yeah. It all depends, but the more the merrier.
Exactly. And as always, honesty. Be honest with your manager. I mean, and if you're not comfortable saying, hey, I want to travel, maybe say I'm considering going back to school, looking to make some more money.
Yeah.
School suggested I consider employment in a different setting. White lies, not necessarily saying that's the best thing, but if you're uncomfortable, find a way that you can convey what you want to do to your manager. And 9 times out of 10, it's the best way.
Yeah. At the end of the day, they need to find a replacement for you.
And then in addition to this, just thought of this, while you're on assignment, I hear all the time, especially people, I hear more from experienced travelers that, I don't remember anybody there.
Yeah.
Nobody remembers me.
Yep.
Make an effort on assignment to get to know your charge nurse, get to know your shift supervisor, and get their contact information. So when your agency or you're going for that next assignment with a different agency, if that's the case, you have that contact information, because every agency is going to want a reference from where you've been, at least your most recent assignment.
At least the whole year, always keep that updated. And, as Corey was saying, the more you have going into the next assignment is going to be the best. But make an effort to have a reference from every assignment that you go to, especially what happens if you change an agency and you don't have those. Keep a reference for yourself, file it away, and give it to your current agency.
And then you're going to have it too, and you're not going to have to go back to your old agency. I'm like, hey, can I have all the references or evals you got for me? You're going to have that for yourself. And then you're in the driver's seat. And if there's a hot job or, you have all those documents ready to build a profile, which we will talk about in future episodes. But yeah, that's my biggest trick of the week, guys. It's how to get anything you want as a travel nurse. Underestimated, it's referencing. So up next, guys, we have the amazing Jody Knowles. We talked about it earlier. Jody's been traveling for the last 2 years or so, right, Paul?
Yep.